Guitar tips, just the tips, just for you. Guitar tips. Hello and welcome to Guitar Tips. My name is Adam Levy. This is my weekly video blog series. I post a new tip here each and every Friday. Just the tips, just for you. Guitar tips. That's right. So in this week's guitar tip, we're going to be talking about 2-5-1 chord progressions. And if you're not sure what those are, ask somebody or look on the internet or think about it a little bit. I want to keep this tip a little shorter. Been doing a lot of longer tips lately. So I'm just going to assume that you know what a 2-5-1 chord progression is. And I'm going to assume that you're interested in playing over jazzy chord changes and that you know some jazz standards and that you own a real book. Okay, hopefully all of that describes you, or most of it anyway. And if so, then let's carry on. And this week's guitar tip is, don't overthink 2-5-1s. Don't overthink 2-5-1s. And before I get into the nitty-gritty of this week's tip, I just want to tell you a little story. Years ago, I had the great fortune of having a handful of guitar lessons with a guy named Ted Greene, who really was one of the greatest living jazz guitar players. Well, he's not alive now, but he was at the time one of the greatest living jazz guitar players, and certainly one of the greatest jazz guitar educators of all time, as far as I'm concerned. And I was, I came in and I was playing some chords that I knew for Ted, and he suggested that I should think more about voice leading, which just means that when you go from chord to chord, you make smooth transitions, and that you're not, jumping all over the guitar neck, just grabbing at whatever chords you know, but you're thinking about how each note in each chord could connect in a smooth way from chord to chord. And it was a good suggestion, and I'm sure he was right, but I took it really seriously and really personally to the point where I came back the next week for my lesson and I could barely play. I was just paralyzed with fear that I might, in any given transition from one chord to another, that I might fail to voice lead properly, and therefore I was doing it all wrong and maybe should just quit playing guitar altogether. I was young, I was foolish, but Ted, I should say, to his credit, talked me off the ledge that I was on and said, no. Voice leading is a nice thing to think about, and for sure at the time I needed to get more voice leading into my playing. But the point wasn't to voice lead all the time or to be so obsessed about it that I couldn't play. So I mention this because I know that if you're into jazz and you're studying jazz, with a teacher or in a school or in a book or online or however you may be studying, you may come to a point where somebody says, oh man, you really got to learn how to play over 2-5-1s, because jazz tunes are, many jazz tunes are built from sequences of 2-5-1s in different keys. And until you know how to deal with playing over 2-5-1s means improvising, playing melodic ideas over 2-5-1s. Until you know how to do that, you'll never be a jazz guitar player, and basically you suck, and why are you wasting my time? Not really, but I know it can feel that way sometimes as a student, that's what you're being told, or that's what's expected of you. And I just wanted to point out, if if you may be feeling that way today, or have felt that way, or may feel that way at some point in the future, that if you actually look at tunes that have 2/5s in them and look at what's happening melodically in the tune over the 2/5/1 bits and pieces, it's frequently very simple, because melodies are simple and accessible and not made of tons and tons of notes. Quite often, a melody in a jazz tune could be very few notes. I'm not talking about bebop tunes where they are notier and there's lots of eighth notes and some sixteenths and triplets and what have you. I'm talking about great American songbook kinds of tunes: Cole Porter, George Gershwin, Jimmy Van Heusen, Jerome Kern, Victor Young, songs like that. For example, let's look at a song. This is a song called Like Someone in Love. If you don't have a real book, I would recommend that you get a real book. I know I've poked some fun at the real book here on Guitar Tips, but it's still a good resource to have one. So the song Like Someone in Love here is in the key of E flat, and it has this descending chord progression in the first 4 bars. Then when we get to bars 5, 6, and 7, we have F minor 7, B flat dominant 7, and E flat major 7. That's a 2, 5, 1. Right? And what does the melody do? It doesn't go. Doesn't do all that. It doesn't do arpeggios. It's fine to practice your arpeggios. It's fine to practice the scales that go with chords. You might think, oh, F minor will play F Dorian. B flat will play B flat Mixolydian. And E flat will play E flat Ionian. Or E flat major 7 arpeggios, or some combination arpeggios and scale. That's not wrong. That's fine. That's thinking about 2/5/1s. But if you overthink it, it could just freeze you up to the point where you find yourself unable to play, and that would be not desirable. If you look at what the melody of the song is over that bit, I'm going to play it in the lower octave here. It's just simply this. That's over the F minor, and then over the B flat, E flat. So very simple. And the point here, the whole entire point of this tip is that you can play that simply over 2/5/1s. If you want to play some bebop lines and get all chromatic, and that's great, go for it. That's a part of jazz. But melody is also a part of jazz, and playing simple ideas and thematic ideas is also part of jazz. So when we get to bars, staying in Like Someone in Love in the key of E flat, when we get to bars 9, 10, and 11, we've gone to E flat, and there's a 6 on top. We are often told in jazz that we need to play chord tones all the time, especially on beats 1 and 3 over a chord. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. But if you know what I'm talking about, this breaks that rule. The 6th is not what we traditionally think of as a chord tone. Usually we're told 3s and 7s, but the A flat sounds nice there. And then there's an E natural note, which is kind of wrong, but it's foreshadowing for the fact that we're about to go to the key of C temporarily. So there's now a 2/5/1 in the key of C. D minor 7, G7, C major 7. So that E over the A flat is kind of wrong, but it sets us up for this new key that we're about to go into. And now, again, over the D minor 7, G7, C, we don't have expected chord tones. We have, that's the 4 on D minor 7, 4 to 3. And then on G7 we have 6 to 5. So it's neat. And then we have a nice 5 chord tone on the C. That's a cool 2-5-1 line. Maybe learn that in some other keys. So that's in the key of C. Maybe we'll do it in in E flat now. Maybe we want to do it in the key of G. That's a cool line. So the point here is tunes can be really instructive on how to deal with 2-5-1s. Let's look at another tune. Let's look at Misty. Also happens to be in the key of E flat. Starts in E flat, then we quickly go 2-5 to the 4. And the melody is chord tone, extension. That's, we start with the 3rd of B flat, and then the 9. And then when it goes to the E flat chord, now we're playing the 13 or 6. And then we just come down the chord, down the E flat chord. A flat major 7. In the bridge, which starts on bar 17, we have a 2, again, another 2-5-1 to the key of A flat, but this time the E flat has a flat 9. But again, the melody doesn't go, B flat Dorian, E flat half whole, which some people would play over E flat 7, flat 9. And then A flat major 7 could be A flat Lydian, let's say. That's fine if you want to play all that stuff. But you could also just look at what happens in the melody, which is so simple. Just a chord tone, that's the 3rd. D flat is the 3rd of B flat minor 7. And then on the E flat 7, flat 9, he shows you that it's E flat 7, flat 9 with just 3 notes. The flat 7, the root, and the flat 9. That's thinking about E flat. That's all that's needed. We don't necessarily need all that. We just need, and then over A flat major 7, there's just a repeating C. And then on the A minor 7, this is 4 bars later, that's so nice. It's the 11th. It's not a chord tone. It's an extension, but it's neat. 4 bars earlier, we were on B flat minor 7 with D flat on top. Now we have A flat minor 7, a half step lower. Melody goes up a half step. That's hip. Yeah, Errol Garner, hip. He wrote Misty. If you haven't checked out pianist Errol Garner, stop whatever you're doing. Well, right now you're watching Guitar Tips, but when Guitar Tips is over, go check out Errol Garner. Fantastic piano player. Anyway, I could go on. Let's look at one other tune that has a different kind of 2-5-1 in it. Minor 2-5. A minor 2-5 means if we're, let's say we're in the key of D minor, the 2 in minor is usually minor 7 flat 5, so E minor 7 flat 5, and then A7, I'm putting the sharp 5 on it, and so that's a minor, what we call a minor 2-5-1. So if we look at a song called Beautiful Love by Victor Young, there's a minor 7 flat 5 with the 11 in the melody. So you could do that, and you might want to watch my recent tip, Let's Demystify Half Diminished Chords, for some more voicings on minor 7 flat 5. But that's a nice one. Or this one if you want to have 5 notes. And then A7, sharp 5. But sorry, I got into chord voicings here. This is about melody and about improvising. So it's super simple. Over the E minor 7 flat 5, only 2 notes happen. The 4 or 11, and then the minor third, and then over the A7, we get 3 notes. Just the sharp 5, 5, 4, 5, and sharp 5 again. It's not... And if you want to play that much bebop, go for it. There's lots of room in this tune to do whatever you like. But the point of this tip, I've said it a couple times, I'll say it one more time. Look at how 2-5-1s actually happen in songs. Look at what the melodies are like. And see if you can take some of that into your playing over 2-5-1, so that you're not thinking scale, 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 but you're just thinking melody, melody, melody. And you can often play beautiful stuff and hip stuff with just a few notes. Just a few notes. So don't overthink 2-5-1s. Think about them, but don't overthink them. Guitar Tips is brought to you by Martin Guitar Strings. Those are the strings here on my lovely Martin OM18V. You might think they sound jazzy because I've been playing a lot of jazz today, but they're great strings really for whatever acoustic guitar style you play. Was that? Yeah. Don't overthink sentence structure, dude. Just say sentences. Thank you, Martin Guitar Strings. These are retro. This is a retro set, light gauge with a 12 on top. As I mentioned last week, and I'll probably mention again, yes, I do give private lessons via Skype and FaceTime. If you're interested in that, you can write to me at guitartips@adamlevy.com. That's GUITARTIPS @adamlevy, ADAMLEVY.com. COM. That's about it. Guitar Tips. I'm Adam Levy. And stay tuned. And take good care. Oh, I dropped the pick. That's life. That's real life. See you next week.